Welcome back to Country Tough with Brandy Von Holten. Today I have a special guest that I met at one of my Chicks in the Sticks. And you know what? I get to meet some amazing people, and they come to my ranch, and I kind of feel like, man, I need to up my game a little bit for this one, okay? So her name is Brenda Valentine. Is that how I say that?
You said it perfect. Yeah.
All right. So Brenda, I got to talking to her, and a lot of times I've got one heck of a story, from being a fighter, and then, getting into mounted archery, and then the whole creation of Von Holten Ranch. We've been in the same family since 1906, but when we bought the family farm, it hadn't been lived on since 1979, and people were like blown away by our story. And then Brenda started talking, then I was like, well, man, I just got moved to silver medal on that Olympic podium. Which is A-okay with me. Brenda has a very cool story, so I'm looking forward to y'all getting to know her. So, Brenda, let's give them like the short story, and then let's get into it. But you've done something really cool for over 20 years. What?
I've just been a blessed woman. I don't know exactly. I didn't do anything to deserve it. A door opened, I walked in, and the rest is history.
Okay. So that history involves being a professional hunter. Is that basically how you would say that? Or a TV show host? Or how would you say what you've done?
Well, I don't know for sure. I wore many hats. Okay. I was a keynote speaker, a book writer, a TV host of many shows, a teacher of I don't know, not survival, but teaching women outdoor skills, taking our wounded veterans out in the field, doing various hunts, deer, turkey, whatever, traveled promoting the hunting and fishing and outdoor lifestyle. And in doing that, it did involve a lot of hunting, and I got to travel around the world, literally around the world.
Okay, so what are some TV shows that you have hosted?
Well, I hosted Turkey Country for the National Wild Turkey Federation. I co-hosted Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World. I was the female member of the Bass Pro Shops Redhead Hunting Team. So there were 4 or 5 guys, each has our own specialty, and I was the female member of that exclusive team that we did everything from designing new products for the hunting industry. I modeled for the catalog for many years. I went on big game hunts near and far, a lot of expedition stuff, Alaska to Africa, I guess. And just as much as anything, just trying to up the face of the hunting industry and making more women feel welcome and appreciating their skills and furthering their skills with archery, muzzleloader, fishing, whatever their interest was. I was there to teach them, encourage them, take their ideas for clothing and equipment.
Okay, so today, so she's at this Chicks in the Sticks event, right, that I'm at, or that I'm hosting, and she got to see me do a mounted archery demonstration. She's like, well, I'd like to see that. And I'm over here like, oh my gosh, she's going to think I'm an idiot, okay?
You're wrong. Oh, quit thinking. Don't be thinking so much. No.
Oh, I know. I don't have a low self-esteem. I'm just messing around with you. But, man, you've done some really cool stuff. And mounted archery is just a weird little sport, and I just love it to death. I love what it does for people. A lot of people, they will see me doing that. And, I'm in my mid-40s, and they see me doing something, and it's something that I just started doing in 2017, and they're like, oh, I feel like I can do that. And today, I don't know, the last 2 times I've shot, I don't know what's going on. I need to sit down and take a few steps back because my accuracy is getting off a little bit. So I think I just got to take a step back, humble myself, and get to doing some basic training again, right? But, and I had several women come up to me and be like, And I was like, hey, I'm sorry that I didn't do a better demonstration for you, and they were like, I love that you missed today, because they're like, it shows me, like, even somebody that's, I've been decorated with magazine covers and articles and stuff, but to see me not be all that in a bag of chips was motivational to them to be like, okay, I can do this. And I'm like, you sure can do this. Anybody can do this. Actually, in mounted archery, I find that I get a lot of women that their kids are freshly graduated high school, or they might be a grandparent and they're no longer needed to do free daycare. And they're like, oh my gosh, I let go of 20 some odd years of my life. I want to do something that's for me. I want to do something that is just for me. I don't want to go take the kids to a basketball game. I don't want to do that stuff. I want to ride my horse, and I want to do something that's for me. So I pick a lot of mounted archers for that reason right there. But anyways, well, you've kind of, like, you have been the talk of our Chicks and the Sticks, and they're like, she's cool. I was like, I know Brenda's cool. So you're right. Tell us about the saddle you're riding in.
Okay. I don't have many things on my bucket list. It seems like I've just dipped them out, and if I ever thought I wanted to do something, it was get out of the way, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. And one of those things was to kill a Cape buffalo, which is one of the big five in Africa. It's known as Black Death. It's one of the supposedly most deadly animals in the world. Capstick always wrote that they look at you like you owe them money, and they're
That's
bad.
A bad look.
They're bad dudes. Let me tell you. So my goal was to take one with my bow and arrow equipment, and it took about a year of working out for this, and it took about a year to get a permit. But I was able to go down to South Africa and hunt one, and was successful with one arrow, taking a huge bull. And so, of course, the meat was consumed there in Africa, and I had a shoulder mount made out of the head. Had big bosses. It was a real trophy. But I had the hide tanned, and I brought it home, and it laid around a couple of years, and I thought, what in the world am I going to do with this hide? Because it's real thick, real grainy, tough leather. And I wanted something more than just a belt or just some little frivolous something. So I took it to a saddle maker, and he used it on my saddle. And I knew this was something that I would use a lot, and it would last, and it would be totally different. So now I ride that Cape Buffalo every day or two on my horse. So
that is awesome. I never in my life thought about, hey, I bet that I could hunt something and have that leather made into a saddle. I don't know why. You ever had something that's just like, well, that makes sense, but it didn't make sense till somebody else said it? Well, I never thought about it,
Oh, heck yeah. I've got dresses and all kind of things that I've made from deer hides and different stuff. I'm part Native American, and I like using the entire animal for something. If I'm either decorating something in the house, making something, eating the meat, keeping the feathers, whatever, I just find something to do with the entire animal.
Right. Yeah, my husband and I, since we bought the family farm, we have tried to be very simplistic and very on course with everything. Like right now, we used to have 40 RV sites, but now we're down to 32 because we can't get any more electricity out here, and we needed more electricity for my husband's shop because he's got this thing called Building with David, where it's an at-home wood shop for homeschoolers, okay, in private schools. So, but we send them this kit, and then they have instruction, and I have my master's in teaching, and I've wrote like a curriculum to go with it. So he needed more power to his shop. So we used to have 94 covered stalls. Well, now we have 75 because we don't need 94 covered stalls with 32 electric sites. Well, so we were taking out some of the stalls. Well, then that wood of the stalls we're not using anymore is going to be the cover of his sawmill. So we use that. And then we used to have the office in our house, but then we were having like 5,000 or 6,000 people in our house every year. And we're like, we're done with that. At nighttime, there'd be 10 flies in the house. And I'm like, nope, because people leave the door open too much. Okay. So we took the office out of our house. Well, now then, I have a barn, and I've got a toilet in here in my barn, but then I want to have a sink put in. Those things go together, okay? Well, he won't put my sink in until he is done refinishing what used to be our office, because he's wanting to use part of those materials again. And I'm like, boy, how much money are we saving by making me wait? Okay. I was like, we saving like $1,000 or something? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have been waiting for a long time. And it, you know what, how much money he's saving? Less than $200. So $100 and something is what he's got me waiting on. But I'm like, but that's what you do. You don't, waste not, want not. And so I love the fact that, you were a professional hunter, basically, and you're doing waste not, want not. And that's the same. Yeah, that's what you got to do. Yeah. Just to be respectful of the life and everything.
Well, I was raised with nothing. I mean, we got a bathroom when I was 12, 13 years old. Mm-hmm. And I remember those days. I remember, picking cotton. I remember plowing with a mule. I remember growing up barefoot. And so, you don't go away from your roots like that. And so it's made me appreciative of the opportunities that I've been offered in this life. And it makes me saving or conservative or whatever. There's just no willful waste in me.
Well, and you know what? Our whole world, COVID, bad thing. Yep, that's a bad thing. But boy, our world is on the upswing, I think, of being better, because it shook us. It shook us, and it made us realize that we need to learn how to do some stuff. And so, man, this is what I'm in tune with. Like, we're going to start homesteading courses. We won Missouri's Best Ranch for 2024, which is kind of crazy, but I'm going to take it because it's going to open up doors for us to allow people and give me a platform to speak on. And so we're going to have, we're putting a certified kitchen into our wedding and event barn. But in that, I want to have classes where I teach people how to use their Instapot, how to do sourdough bread, how to vacuum seal dry products, how to do canning, how to make kombucha, how to start a garden, how to do all these things. And a lot of people don't know how to do any of that stuff at all. The thing I'm most looking forward to is having someone that does foraging and then go and teach us things that naturally grow in our state, and then actually cook with them. Like that right there, man, to be able to provide for yourself. We live in a wonderful country that has so many opportunities, and there's just so much waste going on, and people not having like an actual education on how to live their life better and how to conserve and how to stretch that dollar. I bought a whole bag of rolled oats the other day, and then I vacuum sealed them into jars because I like to have overnight oats, but usually people don't think about doing stuff like that. They're just going to buy one container at a time from Walmart, and I'm like, no, it's cheaper to buy in bulk, and then it's better to have stuff in reserve. So if crap hits the fan again and there's a shortage in chain of command, you can still provide for your family.
That's why I have my own home garden right there at home. I've got a whole room of canning jars, and they're filled with everything that comes out of that garden. Pretty much everything's done for the year. I've still got pears to pick, but they won't be ready. But I make pear preserves, 4 freezers, and they're all, have to jump up and down on the lid to get those things closed. But, since I've retired, I always did some, but I didn't have the time that I do now. Yep. But I plant that garden, and I pick every tomato and every pod of okra and everything else, and we live out of it. We eat it. We like it. It's better. It's healthier.
Yep. Yep, most definitely. I have a little bit of a weight issue right now, and I have literally running towards health right now. Like, I want to be done with the preservatives. I don't trust things that are being said to me. I don't trust what they're telling me about food. I don't trust what they say to do for myself. I'm like, no. You know what? Let's go back to some basics. I just want a tomato to be a tomato. You know what? We have like a massive Mennonite community, and one of the stores that they have there is like, it's holistic health, and they, I was talking to, they would call us English people.
That's exactly.
And we are an English.
That's what we are to
yes,
them. Yes,
we're an English person, and I'm like, that's so weird to be considered an English person, but whatever, I'm down with whatever.
Oh yeah.
But she was talking about how easy it is to make medicines for yourself, and how it just takes like the flower petals from this, the root from that, and then boom, and like it just upsets me with how easy some of that stuff is. But that's like lost art. Now we're told not to trust people that, can make homemade medicines and stuff like that. But I'm all about listening to them. I'm going to listen, and I am smart enough to be able to make my own decisions. And I'm looking forward to the future. Like, I feel like I can't run towards the future fast enough right now. And I feel like I am on, like, your gas tank's on E and F. I feel like I am really, like, below a quarter tank on the amount of knowledge that I have, that I want to have. I want to learn so much about so many different things. I had a friend that made me a hot sauce, and her name is Megan, and it's a recipe that's a Native American recipe, and about all the positive things that came from this one sauce. And I'm like, I want to learn more things like that. I want to be more in tune with our earth. So, anyway.
I think you're headed in the right direction. I was
so.
Fortunate. My grandmother and my great-grandmother played a huge part in my growing up, and both of them were close to the earth. And right now, I have a whole newspaper pile of mullein leaves drying in my tack room for, I'll put those in baggies and have them all winter just for congestion or any kind of lung issues or sinus or drainages and stuff like that. So
what do you do with those? Do you grind them up, or what do you do with them?
I just make tea out of it.
Oh, you just make tea.
Mm-hmm. Or you can make a tincture or whatever, but that is just an old-time
recipe,
a cure or help or whatever for lung problems in the winter.
Well, I know I use my neti pot so much, and you would be surprised how much salt can help you. It's a saltwater solution. This one's gravity fed, and it's in like a little pot. It looks like Aladdin's pot. Like I'm going to rub it and like a genie's going to pop out. But there's no genie because it's just warm salt water, okay? And I put it into one nostril. That goes through my sinus cavities and out the other side. And I can breathe so much better. I've got so much damage to my face because I used to do some full contact fighting and stuff. And but that salt water helps you out instead of taking a pill. Instead of, putting something else into your body, I'm like, well, hey, let me try to do something naturally. And whenever I use that neti pot, I can breathe so much better.
I tried a neti pot and it squirted out my eyes. And
yep.
I thought, oh, no, this ain't right. I don't have enough sense to pour water in my nose.
It's a rough thing. I have to, you know what? It's not attractive whenever I do it because one nostril, it comes out good. The other nostril, it comes out on me. So I gotta be butt naked. And I usually just do it outside or I'll do it in the shower. But, we're out in the middle of nowhere, so I can do it on my back porch in the grass. But I'm like, boy, if the neighbor's ever outside. But see, we got a whole bunch of trees, so he'd have to be pretty deliberate about that. He don't want to see all that.
Yeah, but he'd think you was like a rabid dog that you was foaming at the mouth or out the nose or something.
He would be like, you know what? I don't know what she's doing. I don't think I want to know.
Here's this woman running around naked with stuff
pot
coming out of her nose and rubbing genie pots. Yeah. So I'm sure there'd be folks talking about that.
It would need some explaining for sure.
Missouri may not be ready for you.
So, okay, you told us about the Bass Pro Shop, the Outdoor World, and Turkey Country.
Yes. How about Gore-Tex? We did adventure hunts with that, with all the fine Gore-Tex material. I was one of the co-hosts for that. They're located over in, Virginia and up on the East Coast.
So tell me, what's Gore-Tex material? So you're speaking out of my comfort level, okay? You're complete.
Well, you've had shoes that were waterproof, haven't you? Or rain gear, and there'll always be a little small tag on there that'll say Gore-Tex.
Okay.
And that's a trade name for this waterproofing that goes into so many clothes and shoes and all kinds of stuff. And I went to several of the schools there, and they were Gore-Tex is actually made from a Teflon film that is sandwiched between stuff, and it breathes. Your feet sweat, and it'll breathe out, but water can't come in from the pores in it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So my experience with stuff that's made like that, we used to have to wear sweatsuits. So I wonder if we had it turned around inside out or something like that to be able to make that work, because you had to keep that heat on side of you because you were just basically trying to sweat. I don't know what we were doing.
You just need a garbage bag to tie yourself up in, because the heat is what opens those pores from the inside.
Right.
And so that wouldn't work. I used to try to get prepared or toughened up to elk hunt and do some of these hunts in the mountains, and coming from 500 feet altitude and going to 10,000 was a terrible on your body. But I'd put a backpack on, my hunting boots, and put rain gear or plastic bags or something on just to make me sweat and to make me tough and to walk up and down hills or gravel roads. So
well, one of the books that I read this year was talking about the comfort zone, and it talks about how soft we are now, because like right now we live our life inside of this small circle, okay? But the human body is capable of so much more, and there's this huge, huge outside circle of what we're actually capable of. But people are not accustomed to dealing with pain and discomfort. And we always think pain and discomfort, we need medicine so we don't feel pain. And I'm like, no. Pain is just an indicator of, hey, maybe you need to look at that or something. But this comfort zone, well, not all the time. If you're in chronic pain, you need to seek some help. But I'm just talking about like lungs expanding or swimming a deeper depth or climbing up a hill that has less oxygen. That's what I'm talking about. The pain, you can work through a lot of that. Well, it's just like getting where you can hike longer. A lot of people will be like, oh no, I'm feeling some pain. And I'm like, no, that's growth. There's a difference between pain and part of the process of growth. So it sounds like your comfort zone is probably not that small of a circle. Sounds like you've had to really expand before to go to some of these extremes. So, like in Africa, was it super hot? Or in Alaska, was it super cold? Things you had to train for some of these big hunting expeditions?
Well, I didn't put myself in the deep freeze getting ready for cold weather. I just put on more clothes. But I think you can put up with or stretch yourself as far as you want to. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean people that have serious injuries or health issues or something. But, if you really want to do something bad, you work through it. You just push. And I call that grit. I think everybody, or ever so often, needs to check themselves and see if they even have any grit. Push themselves beyond their comfort level. You hit on something that made me think about how soft most Americans are these days. And yes, we are. But the sad thing I see is our kids. I see so many kids that can't run and play and do the things that we did when we were kids. I mean, I didn't know what tired was when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I mean, when we worked all day out on the farm, and the minute that we thought we was done working, then we played harder than we'd worked all day. And now I don't see kids getting hot and sweating or getting dirty or anything. That's sad to me.
Now it's about views on TikTok. And let me do this crazy dance. So, I mean, it's a whole different world. But I do think that there's a lot of people that they're like, whoa, we need to check ourselves. We need a checkup from the neck up. And there's a lot of people that are like, I went to a homesteading expo, and there was a ton of people that were trying to escape their state, okay? There's some stuff going on in their state, and they didn't agree with it. And, they could sell, 5 acres or an acre in their big old house and get a lot more money for that than what you could buy 100 acres here in the Midwest for. And so there's a lot of people that are escaping situations they don't want to be in. And they're like, I want to learn how to take care of myself. And they love that mounted archery. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, it's really nice to be able to do a sport where you're moving and you don't give up your location. You know, I love the silentness, or, you know, it's pretty much silent, of archery. And there is so many people that are wanting to learn how to do things. I bought a freeze dryer this year. I don't know if you know about freeze drying, but that's amazing. I think I would rather have freeze dried apples instead of a regular apple. You know, and like I'm scared to death of some canning processes. And like the pressure scares me. I just need to have somebody there to walk me along. And with having that strong Mennonite community that we have around here, they're willing to help teach us. They love it. They think it's so ridiculous that they're making easy money teaching us how to do basic stuff that's just part of their normal life. And
I agree.
I'm all about it. I think it's going to be great. Too. So tell me about this book that you wrote.
Oh, that's been several years ago, and there's so many interesting things, humorous things that happen out in the field. And so I thought, you know, I need to leave some of these stories to my grandkids. They were small then, and I thought, okay, I'll just write a book. And I did, and it's just a collection of little short humor stories. I tell people that it's one of those bathroom books where it'll take you just about long enough to read one chapter, and then tomorrow you can read another chapter.
So what's the name of your book?
Hunting MisAdventures with the First Lady of Hunting.
Hunting MisAdventures.
That's right.
Okay, that is so funny. You know, MisAdventures with what?
The First Lady of Hunting.
Okay.
So, but since then, since it's kind of on subject with what you were talking about, last week on my Facebook page, there were people that was asking me to write a book on I don't know, home remedies, survival, old-time ways, whatever. I mentioned on there, the acorns are dropping, which is a big deal for deer hunters in our state. And I mentioned how my grandmother told me back during the Depression, when a lot of food products were rationed or unavailable altogether, that they gathered white oak acorns and roasted them and ground them, and that was their coffee source.
Oh, coffee. I thought you were going to say flour.
Well, a lot of people do make flour, and I've eaten some things made out of white oak acorn flour, but no, they roasted them and ground them for coffee and made a coffee substitute. And then that brought on more talk. Everybody was commenting and talking about the different things that maybe that they had learned from their grandparents. And both my grandmother and my great-grandmother were old-time snuff dippers. Neither one of them ever drove. Neither one of them ever wore pants. Neither one of them ever cut their hair. But they dipped that brute in snuff all my life, and they didn't spend money on anything that they could source naturally, including their toothbrushes. And so my great-grandmother, she always believed in black gum toothbrushes. Black gum is a tree type, and she said that they splinter and bristled better than any. So she and I, when I was a little girl, we would go out in the woods and cut black gum twigs about like a drinking straw, and then she'd bristle one end, and they would just be just like a nice toothbrush, and she'd have a whole glass full of them, and it was like disposable toothbrushes, but she'd use one for several days and brush her teeth, and they worked just great.
Okay. Man, I'm behind. I ain't never thought in my life about having a natural toothbrush. You know, I'm a big fan of this TV show called The Walking Dead, and like I'm always like, man, how they getting some dental floss and some toothpaste and some tampons? I'm like, man, I would be hard up without some of that stuff, but you know, I think they just got to, you know, I don't know. I know that's not exactly where we were going with this show, but I watch these TV shows and I'm just like, man, Where do they find? I would need to learn how to make some stuff.
You think you're behind times? I don't know what Instapot is. When you talk about it, I thought, what in the world? I have a pressure cooker,
right?
So,
it's supposed to be just pressurized cooking. Everybody's like, you can cook a meal in 7 minutes. You can make the meat and the pasta and all this stuff. I've got one. I'm scared to death of it. But I just need to invest the time. But I think I'm going to have people bring. You know how many people own an Instapot and it's still in the box? And so I would like to be like, hey, we're going to do 3 things. Bring your Instapot. We're going to cook in it, and we'll make like 10 different meals. It won't be me teaching it because I'll be taking the class, okay? But I have people that in my life that I've met so many people that I can figure out who needs to teach what.
Well, I'm thinking I have a cast iron skillet, and I think the class that you need to teach is get grandma's cast iron skillet that you've kept just for a keepsake all those years and get it seasoned and learn to use that, because you're not going to need electricity. You're not going to need anything but that cast iron skillet, and it is indestructible.
Yeah. Well, I have a whole set because, whenever 2020 happened, it scared me. It scared me a lot. And so now I have a whole set of cast iron. And
it's still in the box.
Well, it still needs to be cleaned up and stuff. I did meet a lady. I was the keynote speaker for this convention called Missouri Women in Agriculture, okay? Yeah. And then they had us go and do farm tours. And then one thing that they had was they had a campfire cooking or a wagon cooking lady. And she was like, here's how you can clean your cast iron. I was like, just cleaning the cast iron would be wonderful. I would love to have a class where we cleaned it and then we cooked with it and then we cleaned it after we cooked with it, because like so many people don't know how to do that. I'd like to be able to cook with it in the oven and then also cook with it on an outside fire source, so then they could be like, okay, I now know how to cook with cast iron. I don't know how to cook with cast iron. A lot of people, you know what? And here I am. I'm like, hey, we won Missouri's Best Ranch. And I'm over here like, a lot of these classes, there are things that I want to learn.
Well, there's things, all of us, and we never quit learning. We can learn from each other. I think this is a wonderful, gorgeous idea.
Yeah. So, all right. So, next thing that I would like to talk to you about, you said you did some modeling. Hey. So, how was that about being a model? Were you in did they have you in some waders up to your waist modeling, or were you doing some cute stuff?
Oh, no cute stuff. Most of the time, I'm in trees with a bow and arrow shooting. They made big posters and stuff. I'm in camouflage. I'm in woods. You can't see me. You just see my face. But it was, there's women's hunting clothing, and for many years, they did this for the catalog, and we just went out with they have a entire department of photographers, videographers, all of that. And it was just one of those things that every year when the new products came out, we demonstrated them, showed them, and then they put it in the catalog. So, no, I was fully dressed.
Oh, I knew
head
you would be.
And ears and coats and boots and caps. Nothing cute and sexy, but very usable. Functional is the word.
Yeah,
yes.
Functional. Well, you know what? There was something that we were talking about a while ago. All right, so in your book, you were talking about hunting misadventures. Okay, so 2 things. Do you know that my children's book series is called Adventures at Von Holten Ranch, and it's written like all the horses are talking. It's got a moral lesson, okay? I think that's funny that we both use that word, Out of all the words, we both use that word. But whenever you say misadventures, do you know how many funny things that we've had happen here at the ranch? And these weird things that I have, these stories, these campfire stories are hilarious. One of the funniest things that was ever told to me, okay, cops and nurses, we have a lot of cops and nurses out here because they're just like, oh my gosh, I got to get away from all these people for a second. They kind of cut up, right? So I can usually tell if somebody's a cop or a nurse. So these 2 cops, they actually married each other, and they were just like on Tuesdays. Here was their Tuesday. They didn't ever get dressed on Tuesdays. They played video games, and they just ate horrible food on Tuesdays, okay? But yeah, on Tuesdays they didn't get dressed. They were like, oh my gosh, this is what we're going to do. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right, I can handle this story, right? And then they told me about how they had a horse for sale one time. And so they were like, dang it, like paper, rock, scissors about who's got to get clothes on to go show this person this horse, okay? So the lady lost, and so she has to go show this horse. And the guy came out there, and she's like, good Lord. She's like, you look like Larry the Cable Guy. And she's like, and then the person says his name, whatever Larry the Cable Guy's real name is. I can't think of it right now on the spot, okay? And he's like, well, yeah, my name is blah, blah, blah. And she was like, okay, all right. Well, then he looks at the horse and rides it and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, well, I think that I'll see if I want to buy your horse. And then he goes to leave. Well, then the wife goes in and tells the husband, yeah, I thought that guy was Larry the Cable Guy. And then she's like, but he said his name was blah, 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 And then the husband was like, that's Larry the Cable Guy's real name. And he's like, you don't think? He's like, I had Larry the Cable Guy at my house. I'm butt naked playing video games in my living room, and I got Larry the Cable Guy at my house. Like, I couldn't make that up if I tried to. And I'm like, what?
That reminds me of another one of those. Hank Williams Jr. is a neighbor of mine, and we've been friends for many, many years. Go back for a long, long time. And back when this has been a long time ago, they were going to do the story of him and his dad, and they chose that guy that used to play on the Waltons. I can't remember what his name is either, but he played John Boy Walton.
Okay.
And so they had him call Hank so he could, ask him a bunch of questions and get to know him better, and maybe some of his mannerisms, and talk to him. What's his name, Richard or something?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Well, anyway, he calls Hank and he says, Mr. Williams, this is so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm supposed to play you in this upcoming movie of your life story. And Hank says, okay. Now, who'd you say this is? And he said,
whatever his name is,
yeah. And Hank says, "Ooh, dang." He said, "I am so glad." He said, "They told me it was going to be that John Boy Walton cat, and I can't stand him."
Oh. And he was like, I am that guy.
Yes.
Dang it.
Ooh, that one hurt.
Oh, man. So my next door neighbor is Leroy Van Dyke.
And how many people here knew who Leroy Van Dyke was? And you played it the other night, and I thought, "Ooh, there's Leroy." Just let my feet, they won't be still.
Oh, man. Yeah, Leroy Van Dyke. And his wife, Gladys, she's just a rock star. That's one heck of a woman. I'm trying to get her to do a podcast interview with me, and I just can't get her to slow down long enough because she's just... she never lets any dust settle. They're just busy.
I don't know her, but I'd love to.
Oh, she's a great woman. But I don't know, not too long ago I was talking to her, and she's like, "Hey, Brandy, I got to get off the phone. Clint Black's calling." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess you can get off the phone with me talking to Clint Black." Most definitely Clint Black trumps me, But, you just... Oh,
they're people too.
Oh, yeah.
They're all just folks.
Yeah. Well, Leroy's son, me and him are Facebook friends, and he makes I think he makes like parts of guitars and stuff. He's also in a band. His name is Ben Van Dyke. But I was at Perkins restaurant, and the Van Dykes were there, so I take this very awkward picture in Facebook where like they're way in the back and Leroy's about the size of an inch, right? And I was like, and I'm pointing in the picture real close to my face, so I got like Godzilla face, right? And I'm like, it's Leroy Van Dyke right there. Anyways, Ben seen that picture on my Facebook, and they were like, "Oh, look, Brandy's all excited about seeing old Leroy Van Dyke." And I'm like, at Perkins, he's eating at the same restaurant as me. Like, I idolize Leroy, and he's just so calm.
All of them are.
Yeah, all of them are.
Living in Tennessee, not being that far from Nashville, you get to know a lot of these people.
Yep.
And, man, they just tie their shoes on just like we do every day. They're just folks that sing for a living or we do other stuff.
Yep. Your story and your mannerisms, I'm like, girl, why are you not best friends with Dolly Parton?
Dolly and I went to the same talking school.
Oh.
We did. And everybody thought we were, sisters or something. But there's two differences. And I don't have her chest.
Okay, yeah.
And she can't shoot a bow like I do.
Okay.
And that's the only two differences.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Well, really, I can't sing.
Oh.
But I can talk like her. And they ain't near as cute.
Well, you know what? Maybe I'm the combination of you and Dolly.
That's right.
Yeah, because I've got Dolly's chest.
You do. Yeah, you do.
Oh, my gosh. People are going to be like...
So we can walk around with my voice and your chest, and everybody will think we're Dolly.
Oh, I know.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. People are going to be like, I'm getting off this podcast right now because this done got weird. Hey, so let's go. All right. So let's dive into some personal matters.
Uh-oh.
Ding, ding.
Uh-oh.
All right. So alpha gal. Alpha, like alpha, beta, gamma. So alpha. And then gal, G-A-L. Mm-hmm. So tell us, because this is something that plagues you, something you have to deal with.
That's right.
So educate me.
Okay, well, the whole world seems to be getting educated on alpha gal right now. That is a shortening of a term that twists my tongue up. I can't even say, but it's a medical term, and this is a allergy to mammal meat, to dairy, to a lot of things that is really getting a lot of attention right now. It's been on every major TV newscast, every magazine, everything. I have actually had alpha gal since the 90s, back before it even had a name or was discovered. But you get this from the spotted tick, and now they're thinking just any tick can carry it. But it's when that tick has bitten or drawn blood from a mammal, a deer, a dog, or anything like that, and it sets up an allergy to the milk, the sugars in the milk, and it's complicated.
Right.
But this, there's no strict guidelines. It affects everybody differently. There's some great Facebook pages you can follow just to see the depths of it. Mine was finally diagnosed, and you can get diagnosed just by a simple blood test anymore. Mm-hmm. And there's no cure. People talk about the SAAT treatment, which is acupuncture in the ears. I've had it 3 times, and I'm still just super reactive to anything mammal. Mm-hmm. There are a few people that have gotten relief from it, and I think probably the reason is that they haven't had it as long as I have. Yep. But if I were to eat a hamburger, I would, and within an hour, hour and a half, I would pass out cold, wherever. My blood pressure drops, I go unconscious, my heart stops, breathing stops, and I tell people I've died twice, but I've taken lots of rides in ambulances, and I carry an EpiPen everywhere I go, and I'm super careful. But I'm thankful. It was a godsend for me to find out what I had, because they've tested me for everything. Right. But the people that start out usually with allergic reactions, they'll either be itching, they'll be wheezing, they'll be whelped up all over, they'll have digestive distress.
Right.
Really bad. And it doesn't happen just as soon as you have that piece of beef or pork or venison or whatever. When it starts out, it may be 4 or 5 hours later. It's when it gets into your digestive tract. Right. But just a few scary stories. I have a friend that's a horse trainer down in Mississippi, and he has it so bad that he can't wear leather boots or ride a leather saddle. Wow. Yes. I have a friend that has a therapeutic riding stable, and she got it. Her husband was frying sausage in the kitchen, and she went down. And then
just from the airborne grease?
Yes. Yeah. Well, just from the fumes. Yeah. And she couldn't eat in a restaurant other than a fish place. Any place that served red meat, she couldn't even go in the door because of the fumes. And like if her husband later, if they tried to cook in the skillet that he cooked in, she had another reaction. So, like me, I'm very careful about taking any capsule because of the gelatin in the capsule.
Oh, yeah.
No
Yeah,
gel.
because that's made from like bone marrow, right?
It's bovine. Yeah,
Bovine, okay.
it's and there's so much stuff. I mean, you have to read every label and things that you don't even. A lot of women that have it have to watch their soap, their creams, their makeup.
Wow.
Everything.
Okay, so I did not realize it was so in depth because you're the second person in less than 10 days that I know that's got alpha gal. And the other person, it was just like, yeah, hey, I can't eat anything that has boobies. I can't have anything from it. So no butter, no dairy, no milk. Like she couldn't have cow. She couldn't have, but I'm like, what can you have? And she's like, well, there's a lot of things I can have. So I had actually made hummus, for her. And cause it's my farrier. I have a couple of farriers, but my farrier, I made hummus and then I had a salad bar for her and she's like, okay, this is great.
Yeah.
And like, we had eggs this morning, but instead of having eggs cooked in butter, I just cooked them in olive oil. Like that was a simple change.
It changes your life. You adjust to it, but it's not the end of the world. Let me tell you. There's a farm in Tennessee, and they raise emus, ostrich, and meat ducks. And I order meat from them. Emu meat is a red meat, just as close to beef as anything you ever seen. So I use that for my red meat substitute. I eat a lot of duck sausage, duck breast, whatever. I eat plenty. I find lots of stuff to eat, but you just have to eat around the stuff that you've always enjoyed so much. And so many people say, "Oh, I'd just die if I couldn't have a ribeye." Well,
no,
you'll die if you do.
Yeah.
So you don't do it.
Well, and people a lot of times are so insensitive to stuff like that, and they always say things like, "I couldn't live my life without butter." Yeah, you could.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
If it makes you
sick.
sick enough, you don't even want it.
Yeah.
But, and I noticed out at your barn, you've got a flock of young chickens coming on. I've had chickens for years, and so, I raise some each year. Those roosters, those young roosters, they go in the freezer, and we have lots and lots of good country eggs. I turkey hunt big time, adamantly, every spring. And I fill my freezer with that good wild turkey meat. So there's a lot of stuff out there.
So that is called alpha gal. And if somebody is having like unexplained reactions to something and you're like, what the heck, I haven't eaten forever, it might be alpha gal. That might be just something to have your doctor check you for. If you're having like, I don't understand what the heck I'm allergic to. Men, that might be something to look into.
Another tick-borne illness that's really been rampant this summer, and my husband has 3 times gone on doxycycline, and that's Rocky Mountain spotted fever. It is gone wild. People all over are having that, and it's curable. But it not just any antibiotic will cut it. It's got to be doxycycline's the only one that'll do that. But if you get it affects your joints, they'll be very inflamed, maybe your ankles or your knees. You'll start feeling so tired and lifeless, bad headaches, all of that. And the bad thing about it, it takes a long time for the test to come back to know whether you're positive or not. So when you have all those symptoms, see your doctor and explain to that, especially if you've been bitten recently by a tick. Yep. It usually takes about a week for the symptoms to show up.
Okay. So, all right. So, Brenda, man, how'd you find out about Von Holten Ranch?
Well, where everybody finds out about everything on Facebook. Yes.
Yeah. Something that's been just so beneficial to ourselves is HTA, Horse Trails of America. It's a Facebook page. And boy, I sure do appreciate what that group has done for the horse industry because, yes, I have my own Facebook page, but that is like a very large one where you don't get overran by people trying to get you to come to stuff or whatever, but it just you're just supposed to show a bunch of pictures on the trail. And then I'm with me being a business, I do have to pay to be in there. And then I have rules that I have to follow about trying to promote our business on there. But I sure do love what that group is doing.
I do too. I follow them every day, and it gives me ideas of where I want to ride next. And yours intrigued me. And I ride with a pretty good sized group of women back in Tennessee, and they're always looking for somewhere to go. So I'll be able to go home and pass the word on.
Yeah, you'll be
now.
like report card. Here we go.
I am, and I'll be posting, a full report of my experiences up here.
Well, wonderful. All right. Well, thank you very much, Brenda, and thanks for tuning in to Country Tough with Brandy Von Holten.